the WNBA just got hit with a truth bomb so devastating that executives are scrambling to contain the damage. Candace Parker, one of the most respected voices in women's basketball, just exposed what everyone's been thinking, but nobody dared to say out loud. Caitlin Clark's injury situation isn't just bad news for Indiana, it's potentially the beginning of the end for the entire league as we know it. And Parker's not holding back anymore about what really happened behind closed doors. Before we dive into this explosive situation, make sure you hit that like button if you're Team Caitlin Clark, because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about the WNBA's treatment of their biggest star. Here's what nobody's talking about yet. When Clark announced she's missing extended time with her groin and leg injuries in early 2025, the official story was that it's just bad luck. But Parker's recent comments reveal something much darker. She basically admitted what insiders have been whispering for months, that the league deliberately allowed defenders to brutalize Clark without consequences. Every game turned into target practice with Clark as the bullseye. Hip checks, elbows to the ribs, dangerous fouls that would have been flagrant twos in any other situation, all mysteriously became no calls when it happened to Clark. Parker didn't mince words when she said Clark made the right decision to shut it down. But here's the kicker that nobody caught. She specifically mentioned how she ignored warning signs late in her own career and paid the price. That's code for something bigger. Parker's essentially saying the league pressured her to play through injuries that ended up shortening her career. And she's warning Clark not to fall into the same trap. Think about that for a second. A WNBA legend is basically telling the league's biggest star to protect herself from the league itself. What happened next would shock everyone who thought this was just about physical health. Sources close to the Fever organization are now revealing that Clark's camp has been exploring options outside the WNBA entirely. We're not talking about taking a break. We're talking about potentially walking away from American basketball completely. European leagues are reportedly offering her deals worth 3 times her current salary, with half the games and actual referee protection. The kind of protection the WNBA refused to give her. But that wasn't the whole story that's emerging now in January 2025. The timing of Clark's injury announcement wasn't random. It came right after a closed-door meeting where league officials allegedly told her she needed to tone down her competitiveness because it was making other players look bad. Can you believe that? The league's biggest draw, the player single-handedly responsible for doubling attendance figures, was being told to play worse so feelings wouldn't get hurt. Parker's recent interview hints at this when she talks about the pressure young stars face to conform to unwritten rules that have nothing to do with basketball. The numbers don't lie, and they're absolutely brutal for the WNBA. When Clark was healthy and playing earlier this season, Fever games averaged over 15,000 fans. Without her, they're lucky to hit 8,000. Television ratings with Clark playing hit record highs for the league. Without her, they've dropped 60%. Jersey sales, Clark's number 22 outsold the next 10 players combined. And now those sales have completely flatlined. The league went from its best financial quarter ever to hemorrhaging money faster than you can say technical foul. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Parker revealed something that changes the entire narrative. She mentioned that late in the season, the physicality and rhythm completely change, making it dangerous for injured players to return. But what she didn't say directly, though she heavily implied it, is that the league was pressuring Clark to come back anyway. They needed her for playoffs, for ratings, for relevance. They were willing to risk her entire career for a few more weeks of ticket sales. That's not just negligent, that's borderline criminal. The most shocking revelation came when Parker discussed the difference between being a role player and being the primary target on every scouting report. Clark isn't just another player. She's the player every team game plans specifically to stop. And the way they were stopping her, let's just say it looked more like mixed martial arts than basketball. Parker knows this because she lived it. But here's the difference. When Parker was getting roughed up, the refs actually called fouls. With Clark, crickets. What nobody's talking about is the international implications of all this. The 2028 Olympics are coming up, and Clark was supposed to be the face of USA basketball. But if she's dealing with chronic injuries because the WNBA let defenders use her as a punching bag, that dream might be over. Parker touched on this when she praised this generation for looking at the bigger picture. Translation: don't sacrifice your Olympic dreams for a league that doesn't value you. The conspiracy theories are already starting to circulate, And honestly, some of them don't seem that crazy anymore. Was there a coordinated effort to humble Clark? Did veteran players resent her instant success and massive endorsement deals? Parker's comments about the changing dynamics in women's basketball suggest there's truth to these theories. She specifically mentioned how difficult it is for young stars to navigate the politics of professional sports. That's diplomatic speak for the league has a serious jealousy problem. Drop a comment below if you think the WNBA is sabotaging their own success by not protecting Caitlin Clark, because what comes next is even more unbelievable. The financial implications are staggering. The WNBA has survived on NBA subsidies for decades, never turning a real profit. Clark represented their first genuine chance at financial independence. Her arrival sparked more growth in 1 year than the previous decade combined. And now, they might have blown it all because they couldn't swallow their pride and protect their meal ticket. Parker knows this, which is why her comments carry so much weight. She's not just another talking head. She's someone who bled for this league and watched it squander opportunity after opportunity. Here's what's really terrifying for the WNBA. Clark has options they can't match. She could go to Europe tomorrow and make more money with less wear and tear on her body. She could focus entirely on endorsements and media opportunities that already dwarf her WNBA salary. She could even start her own league or basketball academy. The WNBA needs her infinitely more than she needs them. And Parker's comments make it clear that Clark is starting to realize this. The social media reaction to Parker's revelations has been explosive. Fans are calling for League Commissioner Kathy Engelbert to resign. They're demanding investigations into officiating bias. Some are even organizing boycotts until Clark gets the protection she deserves. Parker lit a match, and now the whole forest is burning. The question isn't whether the WNBA will respond, it's whether they'll respond before it's too late. What makes Parker's timing so significant is that she waited until after her own retirement to speak this boldly. She couldn't say these things as an active player without facing retaliation. That tells you everything about the culture of fear in the WNBA. If a legend like Parker had to wait until retirement to speak truth, imagine what current players are forced to stay silent about. Clark's situation might just be the tip of the iceberg. The international basketball community is watching this disaster unfold with a mixture of shock and opportunity. European teams are already preparing massive offers for Clark. They're promising not just money, but respect, protection, and the chance to actually play basketball without getting assaulted every game. Parker's comments about taking care of your body and looking at the bigger picture, that sounds like someone who knows Clark is seriously considering these offers. Here's the part that should terrify WNBA executives the most. Clark hasn't posted anything basketball-related on social media since her injury announcement. No workout videos, no team support posts, nothing. For someone who lived and breathed basketball, that silence is deafening. Parker noticed this too, mentioning how important it is for players to feel supported by their league. The subtext is clear as day. Clark doesn't feel supported, and she's reconsidering everything. The domino effect is already starting. Other young stars are watching how the league treats Clark and taking notes. Why would any talented player want to join a league that lets its biggest star get brutalized without consequence? Parker's generation dealt with it because they had no choice. This generation has options, and they're not afraid to use them. The WNBA might have just triggered its own talent exodus. What's even more damaging is that Parker essentially confirmed what fans have suspected all along. There's a massive disconnect between what the league says publicly and what happens behind closed doors. They talk about growing the game and supporting players, but their actions tell a completely different story. When push comes to shove, they chose politics over protecting their most valuable asset. That's not just bad business, it's organizational suicide. The timing couldn't be worse for the WNBA. They just signed new media deals banking on continued growth. Growth that was entirely dependent on Clark's star power. Without her, those projections become fantasy. Networks that paid premium prices for WNBA rights are going to want answers when ratings crater. Parker knows this, which is why she's speaking out now. She's trying to wake the league up before it's too late. But here's the ultimate irony that Parker's comments expose. The WNBA spent decades complaining about lack of attention and respect. Then Clark shows up, brings unprecedented attention and respect, and what do? They let jealous veterans and incompetent officials drive her away. It's like winning the lottery and immediately setting the ticket on fire. Parker watched this happen in real time and couldn't stay silent anymore. The conversation has shifted from will Clark come back from injury to will Clark come back at all. That's a catastrophic shift for a league that was finally seeing daylight after years in the wilderness. Parker's intervention might be the wake-up call they need, but it might also be too little, too late. When legends start publicly criticizing league decisions, you know things have gone seriously wrong. The most damning part of Parker's commentary was her emphasis on this generation making smarter decisions about their health and careers. She's not just talking about physical health. She's talking about career longevity, financial security, and mental well-being. All things the WNBA has historically been terrible at protecting. Clark represents a new breed of athlete who won't accept the status quo. And Parker's essentially giving her permission to burn it all down if necessary. As we head deeper into 2025, the question isn't whether the WNBA can survive without Clark. It's whether they deserve to survive after how they've treated her. Parker's bombshell revelations have exposed a league in crisis, torn between old guard resentment and new generation talent. The clock's ticking, and every day Clark stays silent is another day closer to the WNBA's potential collapse. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because this story is far from over and you won't want to miss what happens next when more WNBA legends start speaking out about what really goes on behind closed doors.